You know, so much of what I love about Wild and Scenic is really the wild part, right? And when you have a film that couples adventure with a personal story, with beautiful cinema photography, and it really inspires you to not just be a better person, but to want to go out and take risks and get out, you know, and get out beyond your comfort zone. Well, that is Voyagers without trace. And I'm really excited to have Ian McCluskey here. He's a filmmaker. He's one of the paddlers, which I don't know if he's going to paddle again. We'll talk to him about that. But Ian, welcome. Welcome back to the Media Lounge. Yeah.
I appreciate being here.
Had you been to the Wild and Scenic Film Fest before?
I've had a film in it before, but this is it was called Summer Snapshot. It was a little short, sun-kissed Super 8 ode to skinny dipping in summer mountain rivers with friends.
Okay, nice.
Sort of a blast of nostalgia from the 70s. And then this is my first feature film. And it's a real honor to come to Nevada City for the first time and present it.
Well, it's a beautiful film. I just loved it. Tell everyone what it's about.
Well, it's about the moment for me, it was in my life when I came across a historic roadside marker. And like a lot of markers that people stop and read, it was a fascinating story, but this one inspired me to go on a 4-year journey in search of what happened to 3 French people who came to the American West in the heart of the Great Depression with kayaks, cameras, and beer. And I traced their story all the way down the Colorado River and to France.
And what year did they do this?
They did this in 1938, so right on the cusp of World War II when the Nazis took over Europe.
Were people even kayaking then? Did they create? I have the guy. What is one of the main guys' names?
Bernard was the ship leader.
He's like an inventor.
He's an inventor.
Right?
The Europeans who had gone to Greenland came back and they were like, this is cool watercraft called the kayak. And so pre-World War II, Germans and French were really fascinated by the kayak, whereas in America we had never really seen it. And Bernard, who was this explorer, said, I'm going to take my pals that go up to Greenland, they come back with kayaks, I'm going to go down the Grand Canyon with these new fangled wood and canvas kayaks.
They collapse, right? So they could portage.
They could backpack them in. It was like truly the first sort of almost like REI adventure of its time, but it was like 75 years ahead of its time.
It's amazing. I know, so probably no one had really kayaked on, because it's the Green River and then connects with the Colorado River.
Yeah. It was the first time when they were going through small little towns, there were literally people who had never seen a kayak in their life. No one had gone down the river in a kayak, and there were possibly people old enough to remember when John Wesley Powell, right after the Civil War, was coming down for the very first time in wooden rowboats.
Wow. And then the other part that I love about, their story as well is that they shot this. They actually, you have footage of this, which is featured in the film, and it was shot in color. And tell everyone about the significance of that and how unusual it is.
The color film is amazing, and I've done historic documentary for a while with PBS stations, and so I truly love old historic movies, but the rule of thumb really is that color footage as far as home movies and personal private movies really didn't come in until the 60s and 70s with Super 8 footage. And so anything shot in the 50s, home movies, anything in the 40s, 30s was grainy black and white. But we found 1938, they shot color footage before the very first Hollywood film.
And they kind of are, they have this Hollywood-esque image about, I don't know how Genevieve kept her hair so amazing the whole time. The whole time I'm like, how is her hair so amazing? Because how many days were they on the river?
They were on the river for over 2 months.
They
were away from France for 5 to 6 months. They were camping at riverbanks deep in canyons. And yeah, it looks like Cary Grant and Ingmar Bergman and,
And so now you guys decide to replicate this experience that they had. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I figured as a historic documentarian, I could go to archives, I could look at photos, we could dig up old news articles, and that's really, a valuable tool in trying to figure out what happened back in time and to history. But really, history is the story of people's experiences, ordinary, everyday, average people. And so it kind of dawned on me and occurred to me that I've run out of archives and that the river itself doesn't have museums. The river is the museum. And if I'm going to find out what happened to them and what they felt and experienced, I had to put myself in their place. And the answer, the formula came out with the answer of, well, you either have to stop your search now and call it good and have a historic documentary, or you have to push off the riverbank and figure out what you're going to find.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
You did.
But I didn't know how to kayak.
You didn't know how to kayak, Ian. I mean, these are like, what class rivers are these? 3 and 4?
These are 3 and 4, yeah.
Yeah. So, and not just, it's not like I'm going to do a paddle for a day. You were out there for days.
Days, solid
You're
weeks.
invested. You were invested. You were vested in it. There's like, you're in.
You're in, yeah. These are canyons that are as tall as the in places as deep as the Grand Canyon, as tall as the Empire State Building. You really can't, it's not like you can just hike out and be like, okay, smell you later.
This is crazy. What am I doing? So, what was your experience? What did you feel in your experience, like the first time you encountered one of like the larger rapids, like the 3 or 4?
Sheer terror. Sheer terror. My stomach clenched up, butterflies, adrenaline. And I think I'm just old enough. I was 40 when I did the river, and that's old enough to start having a assemblage of common sense and not that fearlessness that maybe I would have had as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
So to me, personally, the very first rapid that we faced, someone had drowned in that rapid just the week before. And when I was in college, my best friend drowned in a river, and so I really felt the reality of my own mortality, and that this rivers look fun, and adventure films, all this danger gets made very pretty and often has some dubstep soundtrack behind it to, eliminate the fear. But when you're really standing there and you're in a place where you're like, other human beings have drowned, I'm mortal too, I was humbled by the river.
Yeah. What was your motivation in creating this film in the first place?
It's curiosity. It was genuinely like a childlike curiosity I read this amazing story that said, 2 Frenchmen and a beautiful French woman went down a river. It was almost like once upon a time in the wild, wild west. The 2 handsome princes and a handsome prince and a beautiful princess took magical boats and cameras down this enchanted river. And I was like, well, I want to find out what happened to them. And then it just kept pulling and pulling, and like, oh, there's a connection to World War II, there's a connection to Brigitte Bardot, there's a connection to the French Resistance. Like, who are these people? Yeah,
it did. It kept unfolding. And you went to France, and then was it one of their sons, who was probably, now in his 60s?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And he says, oh, I have the reel for you, the original film. I mean, the story, you're in the zone when things like that happen.
Yes.
And then you get into some military fortress as well.
Yes, we found out from a just complete chance encounter with a man from France who was just a tourist in the American West, went back to France, did some research, and contacted me and said, I think I found one of the kayaks that went down a little wooden canvas kayak from 75 years ago. Chances of that existing, almost non-existent, but the actual one that's in the footage, he's like, yeah, I found it. Like, cool, is it in a museum? He's like, not really a museum. He's like, a fortress. I'm like a castle? He's like, no, like the European military, like the commandos, like the Green Berets of France, they have this fortress. It's the highest fortress in France. It's the highest military base in all of Europe, and the elite special forces train there. And like the real guys, like the scary guys, the scary guys with the...
They have multiple moats.
Multiple moats and walls. And he's like, so in the middle of this old fortress is the original kayak, and they venerate it like a holy object. Yeah, because they celebrated this threesome,
going down the river and everything they did. And you got in.
And they were like, yeah, come see our kayak. We love the kayak. If you want to venerate it, we'll tell you the story of how we fit into it. And so the next thing I know, all of us are in the middle of the top of the Pyrenees Mountains having conversation with the French commandos about the original kayak that went down the Colorado.
It's amazing. And Ian, I also, the other part of this too that I love is the cinematography. And we were talking off camera just about, now we see all these amazing films with these footage that normally you might have like a helicopter capturing that, but you guys were able to use drones.
We were.
For this.
We were able to, it was a miracle, but we were able to get river permits to go, just in the first place, from Wyoming all the way to Arizona. And 2, we were able to, through sponsorship and fundraising, get filming permits. And a friend of mine, 2 of his friends from ATI build their own drones and fly their own drones. And it's 2 of them, and one controls the flight, and the other one is looking through a monitor, like almost a virtual reality monitor, and is controlling the camera on a gimbal. And for a river adventure where you can't actually move your camera 2 feet
Sorry.
this way because you'll be in water or rapids.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and we were able to fly the drone.
It's amazing. So the other part of paddling through this is you're like seeing these dams as well, and going through like Lake Powell. So I'm thinking part of this was the environmental aspect, right? And like the impact that humans have had on this.
Part of the story that we wanted to part of the challenge and interesting part of the story is that the river itself still existed. You know, it's unlike maybe other parts of history that no longer exist. The fact that what they went down was a large geographic, the largest, 2 rivers of the American West, the Green and Colorado, that go right through the center of the West, they were still there, and the towns that they visited were still there. So it gave us and our camera crew a chance to go back and literally walk the same main streets of small towns that they walked and see the same old buildings and ask, has it changed? What hasn't changed?
Yeah.
To go through the same river bends, and in some cases the rapids were identical to what, we could move our kayaks across and around the same rocks that's in their film footage, and we could see we had exactly traced
the exact same marks, which is
their
amazing.
marks. And in other places we were paddling over Lake Powell, thinking, what's under 300 feet of water? This is a rapid they went down that we're paddling over.
So Ian, what do you want for the primary takeaways for this? For people who are watching right now and thinking, hopefully it inspires them to get out.
Yes.
Right, but in like top 3 things you want them to take away in the message around your film.
I want people to tap into and just be alert to the curiosity and the stories around them, the stories that have come before us and the adventures that other people have taken, and to be inspired by the past, to live in the present, and to find adventure in any form that they can, and that it's really more about getting together friends, having camaraderie, and getting out of your comfort zone just enough to do something new and to feel new and to feel renewed.
Having that human experience.
To have the human experience.
Having human experience. And what are you doing? You say you're not going to paddle anymore.
Me and water, we have a testy relationship, this water and me.
What do you want to tell everyone about why it's so important to attend a festival like Wild and Scenic? You could tell them there if you wanted to.
Wild and Scenic is such an important festival, like any festival. But this one's a very unique festival because it connects advocates, it connects filmmakers, it connects community together, and it's a real pleasure to be here among people who are so passionate about the planet and about each other. And there's a lot of love and there's a lot of community that gathers around issues that are important and otherwise wouldn't be talked about. And I think it's one thing to be able to watch a film about either an environmental degradation or an issue at home on your iPhone or on your laptop with Netflix and feel that personally, that's empowering and special. But when you can rally and do it en masse in the old-fashioned sense of community, you really can stoke those fires of change. And so it's just really like a homecoming to come and refine kin.
I always say it's like the tribe comes together. The film's Voyagers without Trace. You got to see it. You can check out more at wildandscenicfilmfestival.org. And there's so many fabulous films here that will, push you to start thinking about what else can I do, what else is possible. So I encourage you to check it out. Thanks so much, Ian.
You know those stories where the young kid finds a treasure map in an attic? Or a lost letter in an old book? I always dreamed one day I'd find a mysterious clue. This is the photo that started my adventure.
Il voulait fuir cette vie trop confortable. Il tombe amoureux du voyageur et il lui dit « Je suis convaincu que l'on peut descendre le Colorado River en kayak. Les Américains jusqu'à maintenant ont essayé, mais avec des grosses embarcations. » Et elle dit « Moi d'accord. »
So few people had been down the river in those days, there was really no one they could turn to. And there was really no way out. If you had any kind of problem, you were just totally on your own.
What if the river still has traces of their expedition, just waiting to be uncovered?
As soon as I saw this, I'm going, Oh my.
Maybe the Voyagers without trace left us just enough.
If there's a diary, maybe it's still in existence.
We are part of this treasure hunt, this history detective mission.
To the river.